Over the last 3 years, I've read over 100 biographies, memoirs, and autobiographies. Biographies are one of my favorite genres of books because I learned so much about life from reading about others. In this video, I will be sharing 12 great biographies. These are books I've actually read and recommend them now. So let's get into the list. Number 1. Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. For 40 years, Steve Jobs created exceptional products that changed the world. In the biography Steve Jobs, we get a comprehensive view of a very complicated man. The book describes Jobs' reality distortion field. This term is used to characterize how Jobs could convince himself and those around him to believe almost anything, from products that couldn't exist to features that straddled the line of impossibility. Another major theme in the book is how Jobs stood at the intersection of art and science, a rare place to be for innovators, as innovators tend to operate in either the realm of art or science, but not both. Isaacson is phenomenal at painting a picture of Jobs. He was hard to work for, he belittled people, he had a rocky relationship with his children and significant others, but he also built one of the most innovative companies in the world, and led others to create amazing things. Number 2. Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. Alexander Hamilton was the inspiration for the hit Broadway musical Hamilton. Hamilton creator Lin-Manuel Miranda famously read this book on vacation and felt that the life of Alexander Hamilton embodied hip-hop, and so he created the musical around that idea. Alexander Hamilton might just be America's first rags to riches story, and Ron Chernow's book is masterful in telling that story. Alexander Hamilton worked non-stop. One of the major themes of this book is how much Hamilton did. Chernow says he must have written the maximum amount of words any person could write. He left a trail of accomplishments, but he also left a lot of sadness as he died young and had many other pitfalls. Number 3. Spaceman by Mike Massimino. Spaceman is about the life of astronaut Mike Massimino. Massimino overcame incalculable odds to become an astronaut. He says in Spaceman that the thing about becoming an astronaut is that no one can tell you how to become an astronaut. Even the people at NASA can't tell you how to become an astronaut, because the chances of actually becoming an astronaut are so small. Nevertheless, Massimino set the goal to become an astronaut, and he did everything he could to see that goal come to fruition. The best parts of the book are reading about the hurdles Massimino overcame to be considered for a job with NASA. Massimino eventually makes it to space twice and recounts those experiences as well. Number 4. A Life in Parts by Bryan Cranston. Best known as Walter White on the hit show Breaking Bad, Bryan Cranston is considered one of the best actors in Hollywood. In A Life in Parts, Cranston reflects on his life and memorable roles, including as a dentist on Seinfeld, Hal Wilkerson in Malcolm in the Middle, and of course, Walter White in Breaking Bad. I liked this book because it was such a refreshing and new look on life. I had never read about an actor before. I admit I was a little skeptical about reading this book, as some of these memoirs by famous people can sometimes fall flat. But I thought A Life in Parts was both entertaining and inspirational. Number 5. Master of the Senate by Robert A. Caro. Winner of the 2003 Pulitzer Prize for Biography, Master of the Senate is a landmark work on the late President Lyndon B. Johnson. Robert A. Caro has dedicated most of his adult life to researching the 36th President of the United States. His work has accumulated into 4 books, which are known as the Years of Lyndon Johnson series. Caro chose to study LBJ because he was one of the most politically powerful individuals in U.S. history. He served in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. He was also vice president and eventually president. I chose to highlight Master of the Senate from the series because it is Lyndon Johnson at his best. Johnson was able to accomplish more in the Senate than almost any other person. When Johnson entered the Senate was known as extremely disorganized and a place where bills died. But because of his sheer brilliance and charm, he was able to become the youngest Senate Majority Leader in history and turned the Senate into a functioning legislative body. This book also stands as a great history of the Senate, as Caro sets out to describe how the Senate works, or hasn't worked, and Johnson's place in it. Number 6. Sam Walton, Made in America. Sam Walton was the founder of Walmart. He was not your average businessman. He worked hard and he cared about the customer and his employees. Walton was 44 years old when he opened his first Walmart, and within 30 years, he turned Walmart into one of the largest companies in the world. Walton talks a lot about his business philosophy in this book, and what set him apart from the average Wall Street CEO. Number 7. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. This is a memoir about the rise of Nike and its founder Phil Knight. Knight partnered with his former track coach, Bill Bowerman of Oregon University, to create innovative new running shoes. He started selling his shoes from the back of his trunk, and quickly grew Nike to the top of the sports world. This is a must-read for entrepreneurs and people with startup aspirations. Phil Knight never gave up and worked hard to make his shoe company into a reality. Shoe Dog is one of the greatest success stories and has inspired many people. Number 8. Eat and Run by Scott Jurek. Scott Jurek is one of the greatest ultramarathon runners of all time. He won the Western States Endurance Run 7 years in a row. Western States is a 100-mile run through the Sierra Nevada mountains. He also ran 165 miles in a 24-hour period. In Eat and Run, Jurek tells his story of how he became a runner. He also talks about his lifestyle and diet. Scott Jurek is a vegan. When he first emerged in the ultramarathon scene, no one thought a non-meat eating person could compete in a 100-plus mile run, but Jurek went on to prove them wrong. Number 9. The Power Broker by Robert A. Caro. Another book by Robert A. Caro, and, in my opinion, The Power Broker is one of the greatest biographies ever written. The Power Broker won the 1974 Pulitzer Prize for Biography. The Power Broker tells the story of Robert Moses, who was the New York City Parks Commissioner for 40 years. This biography tells the story of how Robert Moses became one of the most powerful non-elected politicians in American history. He influenced and shaped the city of New York more than almost any other person, and he was never elected to public office. The Power Broker explores how Moses was able to get this power without the public knowing how powerful he had become. It shows the problems of having too much power in one man's hands, and ultimately tells how power changed Robert Moses. This book is not for the faint of heart, as it is the longest book in this video, and comes in at over 1,200 pages long. Number 10. Tune In by Mark Lewison. While not a true biography about a single person, this book tells the story of the Beatles, and goes into such depth that it feels like a biography as you learn intimately about every single Beatle. This is a must-read for any Beatles fan, as it provides many details about the band and its origins. This is only Volume 1 and covers the band's history until 1962, when they were at the cusp of becoming a global phenomenon. It reports about their famed time in Hamburg and their first initial recordings that were about to set the world on fire. Lewison tells how the Beatles are one of the only artists to be both the most popular at what they made, but also considered as the most talented at what they do. Number 11. Washington, A Life by Ron Chernow. Washington, A Life won the 2011 Pulitzer Prize for Biography. At the beginning of this book, Chernow says that President George Washington has become an almost mythical figure who has had all the personality stripped away. One of his goals in writing this book was to bring our first president to life. The book tells the entirety of Washington's life and focuses on his time as commanding general of the Continental Army and his time as the nation's first president. He set many precedents for what a president is and how they should act. One of the memorable stories, and there are many, is when Washington gave his speech and had to put on glasses halfway through it because he was losing his eyesight. Many men were moved to tears at the realization that Washington had given his all. He had grown old in the service of his country. And finally, number 12, The Rite of a Lifetime by Bob Iger. In early 2020, Bob Iger stepped down as CEO of the Walt Disney Company after an incredible 15-year run as CEO. Under his leadership, Disney acquired Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilms, and 20th Century Fox. These acquisitions changed the media world and brought deep catalogs of characters and stories into the hands of the Disney Company. In Rite of a Lifetime, Iger tells his unlikely story of joining ABC after college and working his way up to CEO of the Walt Disney Company. This book is authentic, and Bob Iger tells the lessons he learned that made him into one of the greatest CEOs in recent history. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're planning on reading one of these books, let me know below. If there's a biography you've read that you've loved, comment below as well. I'm always looking for more great books to read. Thanks for watching.